Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the weekly iTNet Tech Update. Today, we're going to be discussing wired versus wireless networks and answering some of your business-related technology questions. So every Friday, we do a live stream here at 1 o'clock on our social media platforms to talk about cybersecurity and business technology. And sometimes we talk a little bit about the news and things that will affect businesses within the state of Nevada. So today, like I said, we're going to be talking about wired versus wireless networks. And before we get to that, this doesn't really affect businesses in Nevada, but I thought it was quite interesting. So I came across this in my news feed related to cybersecurity news around the world. And in Spain, last year, there was an attack, a cyber attack on their radiation detection system. And in fact, 300 of their 800 radiation detection nodes were taken offline for a short period of time as a result of this attack. It happened in 2 different months with a gap in between. And there's been a year-long investigation. Well, they just announced that they've arrested 2 individuals. They tracked down the 2, I wouldn't call them hackers, they're criminals. They found out actually through this investigation that they worked for the company, one of the contracted companies that was helping to maintain that network. So it was an inside job. But it just goes to show you there's some really good cyber forensics detectives out there in Spain that were able to track down and follow the breadcrumbs, the digital breadcrumbs to find the culprits and arrest those criminals. So, like I said, it doesn't affect things, but I thought it was kind of interesting. And I love seeing when the good guys, went out and catch the guys that are doing bad things online. So today's topic, we're going to get right in here. This is a question that comes up quite often when we're talking with businesses, especially when they're setting up a new location or a new office or they're expanding, right? Well, should I go wired or should I go wireless for my network? And I'm going to go through kind of some of the differences between them and some of the things that I tell my clients as we're planning for their business growth or business relocations. So part of it is, time and difficulty, right? So if you're setting up a brand new office and you have to run wires to every desk for phones, for VoIP phones and printers and everything else because you're going fully wired, right? There is an expense. There's a little bit more time involved in that and a little bit more expense initially up front in getting that set up. Wireless, if your office is a decent size and you need 3 or 4 wireless access points, you need to run wires to those access points, and that's it, right? Anything else that's going to be wireless does not require that wire. I will point out this is something that people sometimes don't think about. If you're doing a camera system, yes, there are wireless camera systems out there. They still have to be wired for power. And so I typically recommend just running a wire for the power and the network connectivity for camera systems at the same time. That's one of the situations where it doesn't really save you any on doing that as far as the time and expense up front. So wireless is a little quicker to install, quicker to get up and running as a result of that. Price and some of the information around that. So wireless, every device pretty much has wireless built in, right? So you've got the cost of wireless access points versus the cost of a network switch. I'm going to say it's a toss-up, right? So depending on how many devices you have and how big your office is, you may need multiple access points. There are cheap models of access points, but you get what you pay for, right? If you want high-end speed and reliability for your wireless, then you need to invest in the proper infrastructure. And so they're not the cheapest out there. So that compared to a switch that's going to provide network connectivity for your entire office, it's probably close to the same. Wired might end up being a little bit less expensive, depending on your office size. Wireless might be a little bit less expensive, depending on that. So that's kind of when you're talking about cost of the 2, it's taken into consideration. It really will vary depending on the size of your office. Reliability, this is where some of the biggest differences come into play. Right. And this is why most of my clients are wired for the majority of their office, right? Is when it comes to reliability. So, and performance, which I'll talk a little bit more next, but reliability and performance are the two big differentiators. So wired, it's reliable, right? I mean, you run the wire, and unless that wire is damaged or a component at the end of the connection fails, it's going to work. And it's going to work consistently at that speed, right? So it's just consistently reliable over time. Very rarely do you have to do any maintenance on those wired connections. Wireless, this is going to vary, right? Your reliability is going to vary depending on, once again, if you buy those cheaper access points or the more expensive access points. And technology changes over time, right? So a gigabit connection from 5 years ago is still a gigabit connection today, but wireless 5 years ago, if you got a 200 meg or 300 meg connection, that's pretty good. Well, now there's much newer, much faster options as they come out with new standards. And so the newer models have increased reliability. The older models don't have as much. The cheaper models don't have as much reliability. The newer models, the newer, more expensive ones have a little bit more. And the other thing to consider is how you configure your wireless. So if you have to support older devices and newer devices and various different brands of devices on the wireless, then your wireless will have to be configured in a way that will work with a variety of different wireless devices. If you have all the same, let's say you have all Android and they're all by Samsung, and you know that they're all, Wi-Fi 6 capable. Well, now you can change the settings on your wireless to work specifically with that within those parameters and get more reliability. Anytime you're trying to be compatible with more devices and more standards, older standards and new standards, you're going to potentially run into some reliability issues. All right, performance. This is huge. Wired is still the fastest option. Yes, there is such a thing as gigabit Wi-Fi, a Wi-Fi 6. You can get faster than gigabit. However, that's in ideal circumstances. In the perfect situation, the perfect distance from the wireless access point with no interference, nothing going on to affect that signal, you might get that gigabit or better speeds. Wired, you're going to get that speed, right? Period. You're going to get it. Wireless, there's so many different things that come into play. Microwaves affect your wireless signal, right? So if you have a kitchen or a break room in your office and you have a wireless access point on one side of the break room and a computer or a laptop on the other side, your wireless signal could be deteriorated or even disrupted when anybody uses that microwave. There's other devices that use wireless frequencies, cordless phones. If anybody still has a cordless phone in their office, that's an older technology, but it uses the same frequency, 2.4 gigahertz frequency, as some of the wireless for your network and computers and devices. And so anytime you have a lot of wireless traffic going on in a similar frequency, then you're going to potentially run into interference, which is going to affect your speed. It's also going to affect your reliability and your overall performance. And so wired, you're going to get consistent speed, gigabit. If you want faster than gigabit, you can even get 2.5, 5, 10 gigabit connections on cables now. That would probably require upgrading your infrastructure, but it's possible to get much faster speeds over wired than you could ever get over wireless. All right, now we're getting into the stuff that I love, and that's the security side of it, right? And so wired is the most secure. Well, I'll just put that out there. If you are concerned with security in your office, have everything be wired and disable wireless. If you still need wireless for your mobile devices and other stuff, there's ways of doing that securely to separate it from the network. But the bulk of what you do should be wired if security is of concern. There is a limitation on distance for wired. So it's 100 meters away from the router, switch, whatever device you're connecting to get you on the network. And so if you have a really large office, you're going to end up with multiple connection points throughout your office with switches and other stuff to boost that signal to get you your network connectivity. With wireless, there are also limitations on distance, right? So the farther away you get from the access point, the slower it's going to be and the less reliable it's going to be. Distance-wise, you probably can get a little farther away with a wired connection than wireless connection. unless you're in a wide open warehouse, then you might be okay with the wireless. But the security, go back to the security on the wireless. If you connect to an insecure wireless network, your traffic can be sniffed. It can be intercepted and it can be read. And so wireless inherently can be unsecure. You can also have encrypted and secure wireless as well, but you have to be very careful. You have to make sure that it's a network that you trust, that you know the name, that it's not somebody impersonating a network you trust. And there's just a lot more to be considered when you're talking about a wireless network versus a wired network for your business when it comes to security. So overall, it's, like I said, almost all of my clients are a hybrid, right? They have wireless and wired. Computers, printers, most of the infrastructure is wired, but they also need wireless for laptops, when they're in the conference room, for their mobile devices and other things. And those wireless networks are set up in a way that are secure, that are encrypted, that are separated, right? So guest network is completely separated through security, proper security from any of their internal networks, as well as, if the employees are bringing in their own personal cell phones and tablets and stuff and are connecting them, those probably shouldn't be on the main corporate network either. They need to be on their own separate, either on the guest or on a separate network specifically for employee usage. So, like I said, most businesses have a hybrid where they have a good chunk of wired and some wireless for just for making it a little bit easier to work, right? If you can walk around your office and do different things and still have stable internet. So hopefully that was helpful. I don't know, I haven't been looking at the comments to see if there's any questions that have come in, but I'd love to answer any questions. Every week when we do this, I always try to take a few minutes towards the end of what I'm sharing to answer any questions. I've not seen any come in. If you're watching live on Twitter, go ahead and tweet, tag us, and we'll respond when we can. If you're on LinkedIn or Facebook, either watching this live or watching after the fact, thank you for taking the time. Please post in the comments below or direct message me, and I'd love to respond and answer any of your questions. For those of you that have watched this in the past, I'm always going to put a plug in for our webinar. We had a wonderful webinar yesterday, talked about SD-WAN, and those that attended have a much, much better understanding of what SD-WAN is and what it isn't and how it can help potentially save quite a bit of money for your business. So if you are interested in that and missed the webinar and didn't register, you can go to our website, to the webinars page, and register to get access to that recording. We also will have next month, it's going to be kind of a fun month, I think. We're going to be talking a lot about fishing. It's National Fishing Month with an F, with a fishing pole and a rod and a reel. But we're going to be talking about the other kind of fishing with PH, right? The kind of fishing that everybody rolls their eyes at and hates getting in their email. And that's the criminals that are trying to impersonate a trusted individual organization to get your information or to get access to your system. So next month's webinar, we're going to be talking about phishing. We're still finalizing the date and time. We're working with, we have a guest speaker that's going to be joining us from Breach Secure Now. We'll be talking about the benefits of training your staff on phishing and the importance of that, as well as kind of what phishing is in general and how you can be more secure with it in your business. So more information will come. We'll definitely share some registration links and some information as we lock down those dates and times. And hopefully you'll be able to join us then. I did just have posted in the comments below a link to register for yesterday's webinar. So if you're more interested in that SD-WAN, the links below, you can access that to get access to that video. So I don't see any other questions come in. Thank you so much for your time. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and we will talk to you more next week.